So thanks, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you today a little bit more in depth about Connect Pay. And I put together a few slides here. First, I want to talk about why would a company even outsource payroll? A lot of companies do that in-house, and they don't know any other way. And why would they do any other way? So I have CPA partners that email their clients and copy me, making an introduction to me about payroll. And this is almost word for word what they say in those emails. First, stop doing payroll on your own, because I want you to free up time and brain power and space in your life for focusing on your strengths or on revenue generating activities. Don't be doing payroll with your brain power. It's not something that you should be working on yourself. There's so much compliance things that could any misstep by a company in regards to payroll, wage and hour laws. There's just too much. I would not want anyone to be caught with an IRS notification in their inbox. It's not a good thing. We want everyone to be in compliance, and that's what we're here to do. And so payroll service, I've talked about this a little bit on occasion too. What's the difference between a payroll service and a payroll software? Well, QuickBooks is an example of a software. There are lots of other softwares out there that really, if you're hiring a software, you're really just getting a platform to process payroll, still doing it yourself though. You're not really getting a service to do it for you or to pay your taxes for you or to ensure compliance. That responsibility for compliance and tax payments still falls to you. So definitely work towards finding a service versus a software. And then, making sure that everything's done properly for you. Then another really valuable thing about having a service with a technology platform like we have, the employees have visibility into their pay stubs, into their paid time off balances, into their benefit deduction amounts, and they can just log in, and even on their phones, they can see, oh, yep, my dental plan started as I planned for it. I don't have to go and ask anyone at the office. I know I can see that it started just based on my pay stub. So they have visibility. It just increases the level of trust they have with their employer. With QuickBooks, they obviously have no visibility to their pay stubs or their benefits or their paid time off balances or anything like that. So then also, who do you call when you get stuck? When you're with the software, you're out there on your own, really. You don't have a service to call. We have a tremendous level of customer service at Connect Pay. We answer the phone when people call. So it's a wonderful level of service that we can offer to our clients and can answer their question. They can keep moving. Our ideal client, as I've mentioned, are busy business owners that just need an answer. They can keep moving. That's who we would love to service. And then with why Connect Pay over other companies, our partnership with our clients is obviously very important to us. We take excellent care of them. We get awarded by that excellent care with fantastic Google reviews, a great Net Promoter Score. We're very proud of how we take great care of our clients. And it's very important to us. We're a national company with great resources for our clients, so it's nice to have the national presence and also the local office in Colorado to take really great care of our Colorado clients. A lot of people ask me, I could spend the whole time just on competitors, but I thought I would pick a couple right now and talk about ADP and Paychex. To me, are kind of in the same category. They're both large companies. Everyone's heard of both of them. They're household names, you could say. I've always heard my previous companies I've worked with have said no one's going to get fired by hiring ADP because everyone's heard of it. But the problem with working with companies like that, especially for smaller employers, is they get completely lost in that big company. There's no service. I loved Clayton, you're my testimonial here today when it comes to ADP. I tell your story all the time that when he used to work with ADP for payroll for his company, and when he would call them, they would answer and say, your hold time is approximately 2 hours and 20 minutes. And he was like, I can't sit on the phone here and wait for that, for that length of time. So I guess you had told me there was an option to say, okay, we'll have someone call me back. And then every time they would call back, he was on a job site or with a customer or something. And so it was very frustrating to not be able just to call, get your answer, and keep going. And also, these companies are very expensive too. Can you agree with everything I just said, Clayton, about working with ADP?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. My little testimonial there. But there's lots of competitors out there. Like I said, I could spend the whole time on just that, but I just wanted to kind of touch on a couple that everyone's heard of, and happy to chat with anyone about any of these other options, and talk to you about what we can do to help. It's easy to get a quote from us. We just chat with the client, get some specifics from them. I have a little questionnaire that I ask questions just to find out, what do you need to be running through payroll? What can we be doing to really optimize your relationship with us and your relationship with your payroll platform and your payroll provider? And then I generate a proposal within 30 minutes. It's a super easy document. It's one page, so it's super easy to review and understand. But also a great practice is another follow-up call after receiving that email. And let's go through it together and make sure that everything is clear and any questions are addressed. And then oftentimes everything makes sense. Pricing is right on par, and sure, why not? Let's work together. So it's really super easy process to get started. And then when a client says yes, then what? Well, some companies are afraid of this part. They're thinking, I don't even want to go through the process of converting. It's going to be too much. But there's a few steps. I gather information from the client to create the company setup documents. Once all those documents are signed, all the pieces are collected, then they go on to onboarding. And onboarding actually builds the whole system for the new client. The client has no data entry requirements at all to build that system. So it's super easy to get started with us. And it's not a big lift of time or energy for our clients, which is nice. So then the connected part of our name, we can incorporate. When I told you I asked the questions of a potential client, these are the kinds of questions I'm asking. Do you have 401k? Do you have workers' comp? Do you want some integration? Do you need electronic onboarding? Do you need a time and attendance system? All those things. So I figured out what they need, and then I make sure that all of that's included on their proposal so they can see all of those automations that we can provide. So I'd love to chat with any of you and talk further about this and any questions anyone has.
Can you talk again about an individual who's just paying themselves and how you can benefit that? You mentioned it earlier and it sounded intriguing.
Absolutely. So I love that's the majority of my clients is 1 to 5 employees. It's I love talking with them and helping them out because they're most likely their CPA has told them to call me and said you're now an S corp, because there's a dollar amount of earnings that makes sense for you to switch from self-employment tax to this S corp election, and that's when you need to start processing payroll for yourself. And so it is different. So I help those employers understand, those individuals understand when they become the employer and they're the employee and the employer. They're paying taxes on both sides. So they're wondering, is this really beneficial to me? And as I said in my example, that my client told me the tax savings were huge for him, and because he had waited too long because his CPA did not give him good advice in a timely manner. So when he finally did it, it was a huge tax savings for him. So, and I love being that venue just to help get that payroll started, super easy for that client and super easy to get going on it.
Tracy,
Great.
can you still do the same thing with an LLC?
Absolutely. I have clients that are LLCs. You don't have to have the S corp election. There are different rules as an LLC. You can't really have employees, I think, as an LLC, but we actually do have clients that are just an LLC too. They're not S corp. Absolutely.
Can you use the payroll for contractors?
Yes, that's a great question. In my previous life, I was in the PEO industry. Independent contractors were completely invisible in that industry. They didn't even recognize that they were there. But we definitely pay them, and it's just another per check fee to pay any independent contractor. And it could be on the same pay schedule as the rest of the employees, or could it just be once a month or something? So absolutely, we'd love to pay them. And that makes it so much easier for our clients too, to just direct deposit that, not have to worry about going through accounting and getting those checks cut, and then how do we get those checks to those people and stuff. So absolutely love to help those independent contractors too.
I have a question. This may be outside of your scope, but is there a threshold that someone should consider or should be at before they switch to an S corp from an LLC?
A CPA would tell you specifically for your company, but I've heard the dollar amount that I've heard is 75,000 or more. You should be an S corp of revenue generating. So that's the time where it starts to make sense, where you're like, okay, now it's time to go to the S corp election and do the employer taxes versus the self-employment tax. But a CPA would be, I'm not a tax consultant, so I want to make sure I'm clear about that. I just know that that's what I've heard CPAs tell their clients.
I have heard that too, just to pop in. And usually
Oh,
you just,
good.
the biggest thing you could want to do is make sure you are able to consistently pay your payroll on time. Because I have a lot of clients, they're making enough money, but cash flow wise, they can't make the payroll every month. So that's my biggest input.
I see. Gotcha.
And
There
that
is
payroll.
times. I'm sorry, go ahead, Paul.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there are times when clients ask me, well, my income varies. I make a sale or something of art or a house or something, and then I get a big check, and then I don't get anything for a few months. So we try to figure out, let's look at the year as a whole, and then maybe spread that dollar amount out over the year. And that really, sometimes they're just running it through for taxes. They get a net zero check sometimes. It's just for tax purposes. But sometimes they do get a net, and that's deposited into their personal checking account. And so we can just figure out every situation is different. So we just make sure it works for them.
And
I'm sorry.
Tracy,
Yeah, go ahead.
you can Connect Pay allows you to do payroll, not necessarily bi-weekly, but monthly, quarterly, kind of, again, depending on the circumstance, correct?
Absolutely. It could even be annual. I have a client that does an
Okay.
annual payroll, one payroll a year. Again,
Yeah,
just for taxes.
okay.
Yeah.
Just for tax
Mhm.
purposes.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Yep.
Tracy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Now,
Great questions, guys.
if you do hypothetically do it for that 1 year, do you have to actually have that cash on hand to make that transaction? How do you
So
how do you have to show that?
the annual one. That one is a hard one. If you come up with an annual amount, like my example was a minute ago, and then we split it over 12 months, it's not that big of an amount that you have to have in your account all at once. This one client of mine that's an annual is a doctor, so he's not worried about money in his account probably. But the rest of us might be, making sure the cash flow is there for making an even distribution throughout the year. And then there could be, okay, well, let's say we're going to do $50,000 a year, and we're going to spread it over 12 months. And 1 month where it's going to be less, it needs to be less because we're having a cash flow issue. You just call us and say, well, this month I'm only going to do 500 instead of the 1,500 or whatever, or the 2,000 or whatever. Every month could be different. So we're perfectly fine with that too.
What's the minimum required per year for payroll? For for example, you said now you got to pay yourself, right, a certain amount a year as payroll on top of what you had to do as the employer as well.
As the owner, there is no minimum. I have one owner that's paying himself $100 a paycheck just to start the process. I just spoke with a business owner who is opening another company now, and she said, I've learned so much from this first company, and what I've learned is I should have been paying myself all along. and I have not been doing that. And she said, now with this new company, I'm going to pay myself starting with day one. So there's a lot of strategy there. And I wish I was a CPA to give you better advice there, but I would definitely recommend talking to a CPA and listen to those trusted people because they're amazing. They're so smart when it comes to your taxes and giving you a really good strategy for the year. I actually have one client who has a business, and then she called me and said, okay, I'm starting another business just to pay my children. They're 4 and 5 years old. So there's obviously some tax strategy going on there, which I thought was pretty amazing. And so she has this separate company set up just to pay those 2 children.
It's
So I know I'm
probably probably for opening Roth IRAs for them.
Oh, gotcha.
Or
No,
Because you
it's a
have to
tax
I've been paying
shelter.
my daughter since she was 1 year old, and you can do up
Wow.
to 12,500. Obviously, you're not going to pay a 1 year old 12,500. It depends on the year, because it increased during the Trump administration.
Awesome.
Yeah, with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, exactly.
Thanks, everybody, for the great questions.
And great answers.
Thanks.
All right, with that, Tracy, can you stop this recording? My computer died. So my other one. Sorry.
What do you need me? Oh, start. I
You gotta
stopped my.
stop it or give me co-host access. And then
Of
obviously
course.
we're gonna have to cut this out.
Actually, how many computers do you have running?
Oh my freaking God. I have 2 right now because one of them just died. And the one that I'm using, it doesn't usually work very well on Zoom. So we'll just see what happens.
So those of you who don't know, Ashley also has 4 telephones.
Oh, not telephones, cell phones. I am in the process. Let me stop this.